So page 2515. Okay. You'd like to address the meeting. Is that right, John?
Yeah, just as long as I remember the first one in plan, and that's all.
Oh, what you mean that I've skipped the Costessey Centre?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes.
We'll go back to that.
We'll go back to that. So do you want to start on there now, John, on Easton, please?
Right, to then. 2014/2611/0, land north and south of Dereham Road, Easton, erection of 907 dwellings, creation of a village heart to feature an extended primary school, new village hall, retail store and areas of public open space, relocation and increased capacity of allotments and associated infrastructure, including public open space and highway works. That's your lot, Nick?
I think so.
If not, you can soon say.
Now, one of you gentlemen or gentleman behind you wanted to make a statement, was it?
If that's all right, yeah, I think Peter wanted to say a little bit.
If I may.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah,
so the rest
don't
of us
worry.
know who you are.
Good evening, Chair, Council members. My name is Peter Milliken. I've been a resident in the village of Easton for 23 years. You may wonder why I'm here tonight at your town council meeting. It is my belief that our two great communities have suffered too long at the hands of the bureaucratic elite who make millions out of our suffering. At present and into the future, we have a common enemy which disrupts the lives of every citizen in our community as well as beyond, and that is the blight of traffic congestion. This new development in Easton is likely to generate around 1,800 new cars using the long water bridge over the A47 and two roundabouts. This huge volume of extra traffic in this area will not just blight the lives of the residents of Easton, but the residents of Queen's Hill, the Hamptons, Lodge Farm and the residents of Costessey as they try to access the Dereham Road. The slightest issue on the roads around us brings your town and our parish to an almost complete standstill. In the papers today, Norfolk County Council has cut the road repair budget by £385,000. The roads around us are in a poor state of health now. What will they be like in the future? I've been told a path goes from Easton to Longwater Retail Park. Well, it stops at the showground, and as a disabled person, it is not safe for me to go any further. How safe is it for the children, the vulnerable of our communities, let alone fit and able to get to the facilities either side of the A47 using a push bike or walking? For me, sometimes I have to use a wheelchair. The developers state in one of the traffic reports that it is safe to cross this junction on foot. Later they state on part of it, a car passes every 4 seconds. And later they say it will take 8 seconds to cross. I just want you to close your eyes for a second and just think of that junction. Just close your eyes, think of that junction. 1, 2, 3, bang! Well, we haven't got across. We're dead. Before we, as reasonable, logical human beings, can allow any more major development within our area, the road infrastructure needs to be drastically improved. The only way we can stand a chance of this is for our voices to be heard. We need to stand together in opposing this and any new major development in our areas that will impact on what can be very easily classed as a road network needing major critical care now. Let us not wait until the patient has died before we decide to do anything. Last night I listened to the National Highways Agency state, our lives and our children's lives are not worth the expense of improving this vital artery. What is the value of a human life? We need to work together to put a stop to this monster of overdevelopment without first putting in place the infrastructure to support it. I care passionately what happens to Easton, as well as what is happening to Queen's Hills, as my two eldest children own homes and live on Queen's Hills. We know the promise of developers have little or no value, as can be shown on Queen's Hills. I understand that in 2004, when 50 homes were complete, a bus lane would be open on Queen's Hill. I understand at present you have 1,330 homes and the bus lane is still not open. Why? What I am asking of you today is to stand alongside the residents of Easton and say, no more. Development without infrastructure in place first is the wrong way round in doing things. Please join Easton and Marlingford in rejecting this overdevelopment on the grounds that the current road infrastructure will not be able to cope. And just don't let me get started about the medical services in the area. All these new houses will help drain the resources of your community as we fight to share services. At present, 3 weeks wait to get a scheduled appointment. The developers and landowners like the church and Easton College don't care about our communities. They only care about money. Please say a resounding no more. Don't stand on the sideline and vote I abstain. Say no more. I reject this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tim, would you like to make some comments as our
Well,
county
it
councillor?
isn't for us to determine this application, nor is it for Easton Parish Council. South Norfolk District Council Planning Authorities will do that. We are only consultees in the process. The only interest we have at the moment is the impact that this proposal will have on the infrastructure, as you quite rightly say, particularly the Longwater interchange there. But I do know that there are proposals afoot, and in fact there are some developers are actually widening the Durham Road at the moment. The capacity problems at Longwater will be alleviated, not solved, and of course most of the A47 southern bypass and indeed the roads around Easton are the responsibility of the Highways Agency, which is not County Council responsibility, whereas the interchange is, and we are doing something about that. It's taking a long time. As far as the second exit from Queen's Hills is concerned, there are proposals in train at the moment. I'm not saying that we all agree with them, but they are trying to develop a second exit. But unfortunately, it comes out on the same stretch of the A1074 as the tailbacks that we experience, particularly at peak periods in the morning and the evening. And it seems to me that that won't alleviate the problem, it will just exacerbate it. But there are moves by the County Council to at least address the issues, and it is well recognised that there are capacity issues. There was, as you know, in the autumn statement, that there was a lot of money allocated for roads infrastructure to Norfolk County Council from central government, and 2 million of that was allocated towards improving the Fitthorne roundabout, again another Highways Agency proposal. But because they got the money from central government, they're now wiring that £2 million over to the Longwater interchange. So there's an immediate benefit in terms of alleviating our long-standing problems associated with capacity on that junction. I'm not saying that it will happen in the next few weeks, but certainly there are, and I've seen them, and in fact I circulated them to the councillors, did I not, recently? With proposals that are in train, as I say. So the real problem we have is that this is, and I hope I'm not being parochial, but this is an Easton Parish Council issue in terms of the development of the site. What I would say, though, is that this proposal has been on the stocks as part of the Joint Core Strategy for 6 years. We've all known about it for 6 years on this parish council, and I assume that the parish council at Easton has known about it as well. And it is part of the Joint Core Strategy. It's a growth area and designated as such. And it seems to me strange that before last night's meeting there weren't representations made if you felt strongly about the issue of 907 houses at Easton. But with Queen's Hills, when it's finally completed, we'll have 2,000 houses there, 1,000 houses on Lodge Farm, so we've had our share, but along with these huge developments are SIL contributions or Section 106s, which can benefit a community. And you've seen in the proposal there that they are I can't find it, extended primary school, creation of a village heart, new village hall, retail store areas, public open space, relocation and increased capacity of allotments and associated infrastructure, including public open space and highways works. What the parish council and the action groups, if they've been formed, have to decide is whether the quid pro quo, all those benefits to a local community, are offset by 970 houses. We made a decision here that we would go along with those proposals, simply because if we'd refused them, they would have been accepted in any case by an inspector.
You mean our Lodge Farm Phase 2?
Yes. And the consequence of that was that you are sitting in a building here that was effectively funded by the developments on Lodge Farm.
May I respond to some of the points?
Yeah.
Great. Norfolk County Council have been talking for many years about improvements to that interchange. Let's wait till they make the improvements before permission is granted for any more developments. Talk is cheap. Action is what counts. Councillors at county level can talk all they like about proposals. Until they actually do something, we have a major problem. And I'll bring back the point of what's gone on in Easton. Yes, 6 years it's been around. Well, I can go back 14 years when I was parish councillor at Easton. There was talk of lots of taking place, and it seemed to stall for a number of years. And we were told, when the food hub came around the idea of a food hub about 6-7 years ago, there could be some houses. We never told numbers. And we were all told, wait until the applications go in and then discuss it. 2 years ago.
Who told you?
Chair of the Parish Council. Can I finish, please? Then the next thing that we get is 2 years ago, well, it was about a year ago, they supposedly had a consultation with the villagers. Well, if you read their reports, I don't think they were at the same meeting as us. We were all apparently very happy. We all want a new village hall. We all want this. And it was very clear after last night's meeting, as Chair, you will have to admit that people said, we don't want a new village hall. We don't want these things. You've just assumed we want them. No, we don't. We're quite happy. Our biggest group that uses our village hall at the moment is 35 people. We don't need it. The only reason they're going to expand a school is because they're going to shove a huge number of houses in. If you actually look at their plans over there, which they showed at their consultation, count the number of houses on there. It's 500 odd. That's all. They lied all the way through. We've got loads of other things going on. So please, we were, as a village, have been kept in the dark until the application went in of the sort of numbers of houses. They've also got hidden in the a little hidden agenda in the background. If you look at the Environment Agency reports and so on, it's not 900 houses. They're scaling everything to 1,100 houses. That's what they've scaled everything to. 1,100 for the sewage, for the flooding, because I know you have no say and no comment. It's out of your area how we work on that development. What I'm saying is infrastructure first. When the county delivers on its promises, it has promised for so many years to do something, then say...
Where have they promised to do something?
Well,
at Easton, because that...
we've heard over the years people talking about, improving the interchange for years.
That is Norfolk.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right,
I'm not talking about highways. Highways want us to die before they'll do anything. We're quite straightforward.
Quite amazed that you said that.
And I've got it on tape, and it will be on YouTube in the next day or so. It's just our broadband is so slow up there. It's taken me a long time to upload it, because there's about 12 gig to go up of all that meeting. The whole point is, we need people to stand up to these money grabbers. They're not interested in us afterwards. They're not interested in any of us. Unless we start making a stand, Marlingford have made a stand because they realise what it's going to do to them. It's going to flood them. They think for a short while, who's going to look after the suds and all the rest of it? But county or district will have to find the money to keep those going. You know, the developers have taken their money and long since run away, and the rest of us are left with the aftermath. What I'm asking you tonight is to say no more. Wait until this new improvements are made. They're promising it, so it sounds like it's not going to be long. So what's the harm in waiting? Say, no, not now. Come back to us when the infrastructure's in place. We're not saying no to development. You know, I'm a realist. You'll see me last night on the second parish meeting saying we will accept development. We're not shy on that. We're happy to take development, but when the infrastructure is in place. And what I'm asking you tonight to do is at this stage reject and say, on the grounds of the traffic, the infrastructure isn't there. When it's there, come back to us and we'll relook at it.
See, the big problem with that, of course, as I've explained to you before, is that the infrastructure, I agree with you, they do it on the continent, they do it in Spain, for example.
Yeah.
The infrastructure goes in.
Yes, sensible people.
Before they lay the first brick, all right? I wouldn't say all of Spain is sensible, but...
Remember, you are on tape. I don't think...
I own a property there. So I've owned it since 1974, so I've seen it develop. Right. What I would say to you is that they do that there, and they do it in other parts of Europe as well. That there is an issue in this country, but the important thing to remember quite clearly is that the infrastructure is part and parcel of the development. In other words, a lot of it is paid for by the developer. For example, as you see on this application here, you've got the last bit, open space and highways work. So, although that would be a requirement, right, from Norfolk County Council, it's conditioned as part of the planning application, and the developers pay for that. Now, the widening of Dereham Road, the A1074, is paid for by Lodge Farm Phase 2. Yeah. So it's, and you saw the budget, the difficulty Norfolk County Council had in getting through a budget yesterday.
Yes.
Having made £189 million worth of cuts. And as you said, quite rightly, there's a reduction in the highways maintenance budget. So there would be no money up front before a development. They would expect the development to provide the money for the improvement to the infrastructure. And that's the problem we have at the moment in this austerity phase. So, you know, the Section 106s or SIL contributions are are important in any development, and they have to prove that they can provide X, Y and Z, whatever is required, in order to get public support and indeed local authority support. But it is not for this council here to make a recommendation on an application that is not in our patch. All we can do is make a comment on how it would perhaps adversely affect the Longwater interchange in terms of capacity and increase that, and the necessity for infrastructure improvements.
Perhaps it's worth mentioning as well, the work that's going on at the Dereham Road at the moment for Lodge Farm Phase 2 wasn't scheduled to happen until there were a certain amount of houses built on Lodge Farm. But the developers who are working on Lodge Farm Phase 2, with the highways, with county highways, and with the people who are doing the next building.
And LEPs.
Yes,
Local
all got
enterprise
together and decided, and this can happen, that it would be advantageous to do them simultaneously rather than do the next junction, and then at a later stage do the Lodge Farm as well. They agreed, because they didn't have to, the developers, but they did come to an arrangement, and we lobbied very hard on that, didn't we? They're being done together as opposed to being done separately. That's not the way they were going to do it.
Well, the Section 106, which was acceptable to the developers, but not to Vivian and myself, was that they wouldn't do the infrastructure along the A1074 until they had completed 200 houses. In other words, they'd have to build 200 houses before they'd widen the road. And we said, because we were at that meeting, no, we don't want that. All right, we want the road widened in conjunction with the next application and the third lane out of Willie Frost Way as well as part of an overall scheme before the first 200 houses are built. And the consequence of that was, through the LEP and indeed through the District Council and the County Council, they loaned the money, that is public money, to the developers, and it is a loan, so that they could start the roadworks now before they build the houses, and once they've got the 200 houses up and running, then they repay the loan through their a legal agreement actually. So the issue there was, in order to provide what you want, to get the infrastructure in first, we had to come to an agreement with local authorities and the local enterprise partnership in order to loan them the money so they could do it, because they can't actually provide the infrastructure. That's the problem in this country. They can't provide the infrastructure before they've sold 200 houses because they haven't got the money.
They want to, before they do anything for us, they want to build 75% of the whole lot.
That's generally the case.
But
you do have some clout there.
Negotiating. Yes, we've managed to get the parish council to pull out of their negotiations of selling land as part of it all. At the moment, they agreed that last night. So the dualling goes all the way down to the next roundabout, or does it just bottleneck a few hundred metres down the road?
It stops at the left exit of Lodge Farm Phase 1, but the intention is that it will carry on down towards the Bowthorpe roundabout, so you'll have a dual carriageway all the way down there. Right. Otherwise you get pinch points. Yes.
Oh, well, it's just going to bottleneck.
We've got a very bad merge just beyond the traffic lights into the city. So, but that's the long-term objective. Yeah. All right. But their proposal for a second exit to Queen's Hills comes out on that same road, and I'm saying that in an 800-yard stretch, right, to have another exit there when we have the problem at the McDonald's roundabout,
Yeah.
as I like to call it, already existing, and capacity problems there, that will only exacerbate the
Oh, yeah.
situation. But you've got to negotiate. All right?
Your district councillor, Margaret Dewsbury, and your county councillor is very good, and she's really into the traffic situation.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I do believe that's one of the reasons why she stood
Yes.
for
I
council. And we
understand
work
that.
closely
Yeah.
with Margaret, and indeed we have had Easton to visit us several times on other issues.
Yeah.
On the NDR.
Yeah.
When we've had exhibitions as well.
I know Easton want to try and get a meeting at some stage with yourselves and a
yeah,
few of the other
we've been trying
concerned.
to organise some sort of strategic with having the MPs and everything, but we've not had a lot of success with that at the moment, have we?
No.
The MPs seem to be focused on something else.
I don't know what,
No.
but
The MP said, we'll help you with Queen's Hill. Do you want the help?
yeah, but
I went to the meeting when he was saying, and I said, where have you been? He said, I was advised by South North not to get involved. Now, that's when your MP take notice of South North rather than do the residents.
Yeah.
And that to me is sickening.
do you have Mr. Bacon as your MP?
We have
That's
two
the man I'm
MPs.
talking about.
You're
That's
right.
the man, yeah.
Because I was annoyed and he had a thing at Sainsbury's, didn't he?
We have two
I went
MPs.
to it.
Two MPs in Cossing, one for New Cossing, which is Norwich South,
Simon Wright.
that sounds right, and Richard Bacon for the old Cossing part, which includes Queen's Hill.
Sorry, carry on, Phil.
But yeah, but so, I mean, that's his words direct to me. But you've got the traffic problem. What about when they extend the bus lane? Then you're down to single carriage road again. Is what they're talking about in the long term. Bring the buses up as far as the Sainsbury's roundabout, park and ride. So you're down to single
5 day a week park and ride.
Hey?
5 day a week park and ride.
Yeah. So there's one problem, and a lot of things here. Once you get off your site, that's it. All the planners will look at is your 907 house, the roads are then, and displays, and the rest is whistle. And this is where it's all wrong, where I know that the roads can't take that traffic.
No.
And if they put this road, what Tim was talking about, round the back of the recycle centre, back up and down road against Lodge Farm, the people who know it, when there's a hold up there, will simply go up the slip, in the left-hand lane, down past front side, round the bottom, round about, and they'll still leave the people sitting on Queen's Hill, so it won't help them one
Nope.
iota. And when we developed, well we didn't, but when Blake's Salthouse was developed, Mike Housen said, we're going to have problems before long with sewerage, because that's virtually to the point where they will have to change from lift and flow to pump the whole way. Now surely with 3,000 plus yours, you're talking, plus the 1,000 what's going on both up.
Yeah, Chapel Break are going to flood as well through our development.
You've got all this extra sewage
Yeah.
coming in, there's no infrastructure to take it.
No.
They're now looking at another water pipeline from Drayton to Queen's East Hills Wood
Yeah.
and back into the city, because I know the farmer who they've got to go through his land again, and they're looking at, the land down by the Mall Pit, they're looking to try and squeeze another pipeline through there to link up, because they're short of water. So, and the doctors, well, as you said, you're lucky you got in 3 weeks. That took me a month and 3 days. And the doctor wanted to see me, I didn't want to see him. The hospitals as well, as the bloke said last night, the hospitals, we ain't got the capacity in that hospital.
No.